A lot of people think they have a money problem. They think the issue is inflation, low income, bad luck, expensive rent, whatever. And yeah, those things matter. But let's be honest, for a lot of people, that's not the real issue. The real issue is that they keep using money to manage insecurity. They spend when they want to feel important. They spend when they want to feel respected. They spend when they feel behind. They spend because they want other people to look at them and think, yeah, he's doing well. And this is where people get themselves in trouble because it doesn't feel stupid in the moment. It feels normal. It feels deserved. It feels like confidence. But if I'm being honest, a lot of what people call treating themselves is just emotional compensation with a nicer label. You don't have a money problem, you have a behavior problem. And until you fix that, more money is not going to save you. It'll just give you more room to self sabotage at a higher level. So in this video, I'm going to break down why people spend money to impress others, why it keeps them stuck, and how to actually fix it in a practical way. What's one thing you regret spending money on just to look good, fit in, or impress people? Comment it down below. This topic matters because bad money psychology is quiet. That's what makes it dangerous. Most people don't ruin themselves with one giant financial mistake. They ruin themselves with repeated emotional decisions that feel harmless at the time. A dinner here, a car payment there, expensive clothes, random upgrades, impulsive trips, dumb subscriptions, buying things after a bad day, buying things because everyone else seems ahead, buying things because being seen feels better than being disciplined. That's how people stay broke while looking rich, and social media made this way worse. Now you don't just compare yourself to people in your real life. Now you compare yourself to curated lifestyles, rented luxury, fake success, financed appearances, and highlight reels. So now a regular life feels like failure. Normal progress feels too slow. Quiet discipline feels invisible. So what do people do? They try to buy an identity. They buy things that make them feel more successful than they actually are. More attractive, more respected, more on track. But the whole point here is that money doesn't fix insecurity if insecurity is the thing controlling your money. If your spending is emotional, your future will always be unstable. And that's why I want to talk about behavior, identity, psychology here, because the math is usually not the hardest part. The hard part is getting your emotions to stop hijacking your wallet. A big one is insecurity spending. This is when you're not really buying the item. You're buying what you think the item says about you. So you're buying the feeling of being taken seriously, you're buying status, you're buying approval, you're buying an upgraded version of yourself because the current version doesn't feel good enough. A lot of guys do this without even realizing it. They'll justify it with words like quality, confidence, motivation, reward. But deep down, a lot of spending is image management. It's not about the shoes, it's not about the watch, it's not about the car, it's not even about the lifestyle. It's about the fear of looking average, looking behind, or feeling invisible. And I get it. Nobody wants to feel like the loser in the room. Nobody wants to feel like they're falling behind while everyone else seems to be moving up. But this is where people get themselves in trouble. They start using money to cover emotional discomfort instead of building actual security. That's why some people spend their whole 20s performing success instead of building it. Here's the difference. One guy buys things to look respected. Another guy builds quietly until respect becomes a side effect. One guy wants the appearance now. The other wants the freedom later. And those two lives end up looking very different after 5 years. If nobody saw your purchase, a lot of your spending would disappear. That's a hard truth, but it matters. Because once you realize that, you can stop lying to yourself. You can stop calling validation a necessity. You can stop pretending every nice looking purchase is somehow an investment in your future. Sometimes it's just insecurity with a price tag. A simple fix here is to ask one question before you buy anything expensive or image related. Would I still want this if nobody ever saw it? No post, no compliments, no attention, no one noticing. If the answer is no, then you're not buying value. You're buying a reaction. And reactions are expensive. Another big issue is the difference between looking rich and actually becoming rich. A lot of people are obsessed with visible wealth, not real wealth. They care more about what people can see than what they can build. That is one of the most expensive mindsets you can have because real wealth is usually boring in the beginning. It looks like saving when you want to spend. It looks like investing when you want quick results. It looks like saying no when everyone else is saying yes. It looks like delayed gratification, privacy, patience, and repetition. It does not look flashy at first, but fake wealth. Fake wealth is loud. Fake wealth wants witnesses. Fake wealth is the guy with the finance car, expensive clothes, constant eating out, always posting, always upgrading, always trying to prove something. But he has no savings, no investments, no real peace, and one emergency would completely wreck him. That's not wealth. That's financial cosplay. A lot of people want the lifestyle of wealth without the loneliness of discipline. That's the real issue here. They want to feel successful this weekend more than they want to become successful over the next 5 years. And that mindset will keep people stuck for a long time because every decision is based on short-term image instead of long-term leverage. This is also where lifestyle inflation sneaks in. The minute people make a little more money, they increase spending just as fast, sometimes faster. New apartment, better car, more going out, more convenience, more I deserve it. And then they wonder why their income changed, but their life still feels financially fragile. Here's the trap. The more your lifestyle depends on attention, the harder it becomes to build actual freedom. If I were you, I'd stop measuring progress by appearance completely. I'd create a private scorecard. I'd track my savings rate, my investments, my debt, my cash buffer, and my monthly burn rate. Because that stuff is real. That stuff actually changes your life. The world respects visible success, but your future depends on invisible discipline. Then there's emotional spending, which is probably one of the biggest reasons people stay inconsistent with money. A lot of spending has nothing to do with need. It has to do with mood. People spend when they're bored. They spend when they're stressed. They spend after a bad day, after an argument, after feeling rejected, after feeling unproductive, after feeling lonely, after scrolling social media too long and suddenly hating their own life. So they buy something, not because they need it, but because they want a quick change in how they feel. And for a few minutes, it works. That's why the habit sticks. Buying gives you a little hit of novelty, control, relief, anticipation. It interrupts whatever uncomfortable feeling was sitting in your chest. That's why people do it again and again. It becomes emotional self-medication. Not with alcohol, not with food, with spending. And the problem is, the item usually doesn't solve the actual issue. The stress is still there, the insecurity is still there, the boredom is still there, the loneliness is still there. Now you just added another charge to the account. This is what keeps people stuck. They keep confusing emotional relief with financial choice. And once money becomes your coping mechanism, progress gets harder because every hard day becomes a spending trigger. Every uncomfortable emotion becomes a reason to break your own rules. That's why some people can budget well for 6 days and ruin it all in one night. It's not lack of information, it's lack of emotional control. One simple fix here is friction. You need space between the feeling and the purchase. That's it. Give yourself a 24-hour rule for anything non-essential. Delete your saved cards from shopping apps. Unfollow accounts that constantly trigger comparison and consumption. Stop browsing when you're emotionally off. Make impulsive spending inconvenient. Because when people say, I just need more discipline, what they usually need is less access during weak moments. Another reason people spend to impress others is scarcity mixed with comparison. When you feel behind in life, you start acting weird with money. You stop making calm decisions. You start making emotional ones. Start trying to catch up in public. You see people your age traveling, buying nice things, moving into better apartments, going to expensive restaurants, wearing certain brands, posting certain lifestyle styles. And even if you know it's curated, even if you know some of it is fake, it still hits you emotionally. You still feel like you're losing. So what do people do? They overcompensate. When somebody feels small internally, they often try to look big externally. They spend bigger, they flex harder, they become more reckless because they're not just buying the thing. They're trying to escape the feeling of being behind. But the irony is brutal. The more you spend trying not to look behind, the more behind you actually become. That's why comparison is such an expensive emotion. It makes you react instead of think. It makes you spend from ego instead of intention. And once ego gets involved, logic usually leaves the room. There are basically two types of people when they feel behind. One person reacts emotionally and starts performing harder. The other gets quieter, more focused, more disciplined, and more private. The first person usually gets attention. The second person usually gets results. And if I'm being honest, a lot of people choose attention because results take longer. That's the whole trap. So if this is you, stop trying to win visually. Stop trying to look caught up. Start focusing on what actually improves your position. Unfollow the people who trigger nonsense in your head. Spend more time looking at your own numbers than other people's lives. And remember this, just because someone looks expensive doesn't mean they're financially strong. Now let's talk about self-sabotage, because this is deeper than just bad habits. A lot of people know what they should do with money. They know they should save more, invest more, stop impulse spending, stop overspending on status, stop leaking money into dumb stuff. They already know, but they still don't do it consistently. Why? Because behavior follows identity. If part of you still sees yourself as impulsive, chaotic, irresponsible, behind, or just bad with money, then your actions will keep matching that identity. You can learn all the tips in the world, but if your internal story is still broken, your behavior will keep pulling you back to what feels familiar. That's why some people make progress and then ruin it. They save for a while, get momentum, start doing better, then suddenly blow money for no reason. It looks random, but it's usually identity conflict. Stability feels unfamiliar. Discipline feels boring. Progress feels strange. Chaos feels normal. Some people are more attached to the identity of struggling than they realize because struggling gives them excuses. It gives them a story. It gives them a reason to not fully grow up. But if you actually want your money to change, your identity has to change first. You have to become the kind of person who does not need to perform with money, not someone trying to be better, someone who has standards, someone who does not buy things for applause. someone who can sit in discomfort without reacting, someone who values peace more than image, someone who is harder to manipulate by ads, by insecurity, by comparison, by other people's opinions, because you cannot build a stable future with unstable behavior. Your bank account is not just a math report, it's a behavior report. It shows what version of you has been in control. So let me make this practical. If you actually want to reset your money behavior, start with your last 30 days of spending. Go through everything, every transaction, every random purchase, every meal, app subscription, impulse order, transfer, whatever. And be brutally honest. Don't just ask what you bought. Ask why you bought it. Was it a real need? Was it convenience? Was it boredom? Was it stress? Was it validation? Was it insecurity? Was it comparison? Was it you trying to feel better for an hour? That step alone will wake a lot of people up, because you'll start seeing patterns. You'll realize half your spending wasn't about survival. It was about emotion. Then separate your spending into two buckets: things that support your life and things that perform your image. That's a powerful distinction, because a lot of people think they're spending on quality of life when really they're spending on social proof. After that, create friction. This part matters a lot. No non-essential purchase without a waiting period, no saved cards, no doom-scrolling shopping apps late at night, no buying things when you're emotional. Make it harder to be impulsive. You do not rise to your intentions. You fall to your systems. Next, automate the good behavior. Send money out before you can talk yourself out of it. Savings, investing, emergency fund, make it automatic. Because if your entire financial future depends on how motivated you feel in the moment, you're going to keep losing to your own moods. And finally, tie your money to a bigger identity. Don't just say, I'm trying to save money. That's weak. Say, I'm the kind of person who doesn't need to impress people. Say, I'm the kind of person who buys peace, not attention. Say, I'm building something real, even if nobody claps yet. Because the whole point here is not to become cheap. It's not to never enjoy your money. It's not to live like a robot. To stop letting insecurity decide where your future goes. At the end of the day, spending money to impress people is expensive for one reason. It keeps you chasing a feeling instead of building a life. And those are not the same thing. Real financial progress is usually quiet before it becomes visible. It looks boring before it looks impressive. But the guy who learns to control his behavior, his emotions, and his need for validation will always beat the guy who just looks successful online. So if you've been using money to prove something, fix that now. Because chasing approval is expensive, but self-respect pays you back for years. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Hit that subscribe button.